Daly and the crew, let's go.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It is Shemai, and guess what? It is Sweep Unplugged. Shout out to the founder, Rudy Campos Jr., the founder of Sweep the League and Sweep Unplugged, and the whole crew. And you know, I gotta give my dues to the UTSA 2024 Hall of Fame himself, Derek Gervin. Man, we have a treat for y'all. We have a special guest. We have the true honor talking to our guest today, Clint Daly. He is the host, founder of Daly Dose Sports Podcast, and we're gonna learn everything about what he does in his sports world. We might talk about some basketball, some football, some NFL, and you know, anything is game for this show. So first and foremost, Clint, thank you for taking time. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. Always happy to appear on another show and work with another podcast. Love what you guys are doing. So thank you very much for having me.
Man, so kind of spill the beans for our sports audience, man. You know, you're doing a lot of great coverage. I saw your awesome YouTube videos, and you're doing some great things yourself. So give us the back history. What got you prompted to start your podcast, man?
So my background actually was not on this side. I was a high school basketball coach for 15 years or so. And even while I was coaching, I was in a situation where, you know, you got some spare time, you got some downtime, whatever. And you're like, hey, I could write some articles. I'm a big sports fan, so I could write some articles. And I had a background in a little bit of writing. So I started writing, and I actually went through a featured columnist program to be a writer for Bleacher Report. So I became a writer for Bleacher Report. I was a featured columnist for the Denver Broncos, and I wrote for them for a little over a year. So I'm coaching, I'm writing, and I started writing for an NFL website called Cover 32. And I wrote for them. I ended up becoming an editor. I ended up, having my own group of writers writing for me, and we were covering both the Broncos and actually the Buffalo Bills. I have no interest in the Bills, but that was what I got. So I began doing that. I ended up writing for a publication called Mile High Sports Magazine, which is still here in Denver and still running and that kind of thing. So I'm doing all this writing, I'm doing all this stuff. And I actually was asked by a mutual friend. It was actually a parent of a kid that I had coached. Could you write an article for a little startup paper here in Denver? What do they need? Well, just anything. They just don't have a sports guy. Can you write some sports for them? So I said, sure. So I wrote a couple of articles, like quick, like I'm putting out 5 articles a day. So to like do 2 quick, boom, boom, boom. Yeah, there you go. Never thought I'd hear from them again. They said, hey, we have like a little small internet radio company here. Could you come be a guest on a show? Yeah, I guess. We don't have a sports guy. Could you come do? So I went and did a guest spot, and we did some NFL picks and talked some NFL and goofed off a lot and whatever. And they said, hey, can you come back next week? And I was like, all right. I'm starting to get out of coaching because now my kids are getting older. I want to go watch them. I don't want to coach somebody else's kids. So I want to go watch my own kids. So I was starting to back out of the coaching thing. And after the second time I appeared on the show, they were like, hey, you want your own show? I don't know. Do I? And they were like, yeah, like here's the pay. Here's what you'll do drive time, a couple days a week, 2 hours a day. Okay. So that was in 2013. So in 2013, did the show every week for a few months. And then as all radio shows do, they actually ended up changing to be a totally different format and went a wholly different way. So meanwhile, I said, well, I don't know anything about podcasting, but I guess we're going to jump into that. We had a few listeners. We're going to see about the podcasting thing. So this is embarrassing. It took me probably like 3 months at that time, back in 2014, to figure out how to host a podcast. I had no idea. It wasn't like today. You go to these really cool, websites. Hey, you record it, they post it. No. I was hosting it on like a library free website. And then I was pointing the feed, to all these different places. And so it was the grassroots of podcasting, but we continued the Daly Dose radio show that we had been doing. And my goal, and it still holds today. My goal was, it's either got to be informative or it's got to kind of make you smile and make you laugh. If it's not one of the two, cut it. I don't want it. So if it's not telling you something you didn't know about the world of sports, if it's not giving you some sort of insight, and for me personally, because I was a coach, is going to sound bad. There's a lot of people talking sports that have never been involved in sports. They sat up in the stands and they watch sports, but they've never been on the bench. They've never been in the locker room. They've never actually done the pregame, the halftime, the postgame. They've never done any of that stuff. And then they're telling the athletes and the coaches, here's what you should have done. You don't have the slightest idea what you're talking about. Sorry, you just don't. And I'm not being a jerk. You just don't. You haven't been there. And so we try to bring some common sense to the world of sports. And I know that sounds crazy, but we try to bring a little common sense. We try to be either informative or, like I said, hopefully make you smile, make you laugh. And then I'm a huge sports history person. I understand most sports fans are probably under 25 years old. I get it. I know the greatest player you've ever seen in the NBA is Ja Morant or whoever. I get that. And yet you do owe a little bit to the founding fathers going back in the world of sports. So sports history is really, really big to me, really important to me. I love looking back, and I've actually kind of reached a point. We did this earlier this last summer, where instead of looking at, is Mahomes better than Brady? Is Mahomes better than Elway? I don't care. I'm not going to try to compare eras. What I will say is Mahomes is kind of this era's Elway or Montana. I don't have to compare them. I can say, no, you're the next guy in line. You're that next guy. I don't need to say who's better or who's worse. I'm not going to dog on Joe Montana. All the man did was never lose a Super Bowl and never throw an interception. What am I going to say about him? Can I look at it and say, hey, maybe Mahomes is going to be this generation's Joe Montana? Yeah, that makes more sense to me. Can I look at even the NBA, which, changes and changes and changes from where we started? And I'm not going to go back to like Mike and that group, but it was a big man's game.
Yeah.
Not a big man's game anymore. It's not. They're going to go, spread. They're going to go 5. They're going to go quick. They're going to shoot. You look at teams like Boston and the way they're shooting it and what they're doing. Obviously, Golden State, it's a different game. Does that mean that guys from that era couldn't play today? No. Because I know they're going to tell me Larry Bird couldn't play today. He couldn't. Well, kind of is. He's playing here in Denver. I mean, his name is Nikola Jokic, but that's him. He's slow. He can't jump. He runs like a pregnant deer. And yet he's shredding the league with a triple-double every single night. It's not that he couldn't play it. It's just different. It's just changing. So I would much rather look at sports history from that direction as opposed to put down the guys that came before them. No, they just paved the way for these guys today.
Man, I mean, I'm telling you, I already know your show fire because all those takes you just took right now, those were brilliant takes. And I know Rudy is going to want to talk with you one day and probably have you on a live show, maybe, because I know that's when Derek is usually available. But let's dive into the process of, I love the fact that you have the sports background, being a coach, because I think you're right. A lot of shows are out there are doing their thing and they kind of just doing their thing without any actual knowledge. And that's why Rudy and crew is in the front leads. I'm the producer, man. I make the magic happen with the graphics.
Sure.
But talk about the importance, though, of knowing the facts of the game and understanding how things work, because it's one thing to have a hot take, but it's a different thing if you actually have history and prior knowledge to the game.
Well, it's so interesting because, you look at, take the NFL, and we look at the NFL and we're watching these games this past week, and you're seeing, again, the talking hairdos go out and they say, hey, the coach should have gone for 2 here. The coach should have done this here. Why did the coach call this play and this? But what we're not seeing is the fact that in practice, they ran that play over and over and over again with high success. And then in the game, the defense, who I know this is shocking, I won't surprise you because you get it. The other team's getting paid too. And so they come out, they make a play, they shut it down, and you're like, oh, the coach is an idiot. What a moron. Oh, that quarterback is horrible. Why did he throw it there? Because that's not what he saw. I'll give you an example that sums it all up. And this is painful for me, but I'll give it to you anyways. We're coaching at a high school here in I'm in Denver. We were in Denver, Colorado. We're coaching at a school, and we had a year where we had gone to a new school, not a new school, but a new school to us, a new job. And we have a team that is just, they're not very good. God love them. They're sweet kids. They're just not very good at basketball. And so we're trying to coach them up. We're trying to get them ready. And we got them kind of figuring some things out. Stop turning it over. Stop doing this. Play some defense. Get some rebounds. And we start getting them better and better. And by the end of the year, we're approaching 500, but we're right on the cusp of, are we going to make playoffs or not? And we know we're going to play this league team, and it's either going to be them or it's going to be us. Well, we couldn't shoot free throws in games. We could make them in practice, but we couldn't make them in the game. In the game, our kids that weren't overly experienced in basketball, they would clinch up. They can't make a free throw. So we come together as a coaching staff and we say, hey, what can we possibly do to get these kids to make free throws? Because it's going to come down to free throws. We know it. They've got to knock some. We put like 5 heads together, any drill, anything you can. Do you reward them? Do you punish them? Do you do that? We shoot thousands of free throws that week. We know come Friday night, we got to win this game. We got to take care of business. We got to knock our free throws down. Free throw, free throw, free throw. Rebounding, defense, back to free throws. Ball handling, passing and catching, don't turn it over, back to free throws. That's all we did. We ate, breathed, drank free throws all week. Go into the game, tight game, have a lead, late in the game, miss free throws, lose the game, do not make the playoffs. And we're sitting downstairs, all coaches, we're sitting in there talking, and we're just like, what can we do? We can't make them for them. What can we do? So we leave, and there's some parents up there, and thankfully they weren't jerks about it, but there's some parents up there, and hey, coach, thanks for the effort. Thanks for all the stuff you taught, and thanks for this, and thanks for that. We know season's over, but thank you. And coach, if only you guys would have worked on free throws this week.
That's good.
Hey, good eye. I'm glad you saw that, because I hadn't thought of that. But now that you mention it, that would have been. So that's where I kind of look at the common sense side of things. Sometimes people are telling, here in Denver, over analyzing every single thing Sean Payton does. Do you think Sean Payton doesn't know that Bo Nix needs to set his feet to throw an accurate ball? I got news for you. He's drilling it into him all day, every day, all day, every day. Bo, you're not very accurate throwing off your back foot. God love you, kid. You've got wheels, you can run, but you're just not very accurate. Set your feet, pick your target, point that foot, and make that throw. But here in Denver, man, Sean Payton doesn't know what he's doing. No, he does. Trust me, he does. And so that's the kind of thing that I look at and go, sometimes sports fans love the passion, love how excited you get, and yet you're not dealing in reality. You're not looking at things from a common sense perspective. And I would much rather look at it a little more realistically than just the meathead moron. Come on, guys, what do we do? Okay, that's just not how sports is. And when you're out there, it is very different than the guy upstairs with the notebook talking about it. You're in the room, you're in the locker room, the relationships. I always laugh when they talk about, teammates kind of fighting. You've been in a locker room. That stuff happens. That is life. That's just how it works. That's just, again, I'd rather look at it a little more realistically than I would from the standpoint of just the rah-rah bonehead fan. And I'm not even putting those fans down. They make our life entertaining. It's just that you're not dealing in reality. You just aren't, because that's not how the game is played.
Well, I'm gonna ask this next question, and
I'm ready for you.
I'm gonna do it because I know it's risky. I know Rudy likes when it gets hot and crazy on shows. So when you look at talking heads like Stephen A. Smith, I mean, let's give the guy his flowers, man. He's big time. He's Showtime. He's popular.
Yep.
When you get people like that are kind of very vocal and strong in their opinion, what is your reaction when people who really don't have that day job, that daily grind, try to counter what he's saying? You think it's balanced, or you think it's a little bit stretched?
I think it's stretched, but I think, let's be real clear. Stephen A. Smith, as much as we're going to try to say, is not in sports. Stephen A. Smith is in entertainment. Those are two very different things. Sports and entertainment are not the same thing. And so half the time, does Stephen A. believe what he's saying? Probably not. If he does, it's because he wasn't the guy in the locker room. As much as he wants to tell us he was, that 2.1 average tells us he probably wasn't, right? So, but again, he's trying to entertain. He's trying to get eyes on ESPN. He's trying to pull people that maybe don't watch sports or maybe don't really know sports. He's trying to pull them because the sports fans, the true sports fans, I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to watch Stephen A. I'm going to watch the game, and I'm going to take my own opinion from it. Stephen A. half the time comes out with things that I don't even think he believes it. Hey, like you said, give him his props, give him his flowers. He has made a career out of that. Well done. I don't cut you any, I don't have any hard feelings about you making it like that. And yeah, true sports. Come on.
See, I love this show. Once again, you watching Sweep Unplugged. Big shout out to Ray, the founder of Sweep the League TV, and the one and only Derek German. I gotta give a big shout out to Coach Gio, man. He's part of the crew too. I don't want him getting mad at me. But man, we've been talking to our guest today, Clint Daly. I know we're almost done with the podcast, but that's why I wanted to get your perspective on people like Stephen A. Smith, because he's a great personality, and you yourself with your podcast, Daly Dose Sports Podcast, you yourself are a great personality. But what I love about what you said in this interview is the coach perspective, or someone who's been an athlete, someone who's actually been in the game, someone who knows what they actually are talking about and discussing. So appreciate you being on this segment of Sweep Unplugged. Before we sign off officially, how can people stay in contact with your show, and how often do you have a new episode?
So we have a new episode up every Wednesday morning. We've been doing it now. This December will be 10 years. We have not missed a week. We put up a new episode every week, and every Wednesday morning, Daly Dose Sports, DALY, don't add any additional letters in there, but DALY, Daly Dose Sports. You can go to dalydosesports.com. You can find us Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, but dalydosesports.com. You can just go to our website if you want. If you need some, you need some Daly Dose gear. I think I have some Daly Dose gear. You can kind of see here in the background. But yeah, we've got some stuff there. But yeah, come follow us. Would love to have you, and love to have you come visit, and would love to come back on, like you said, if you want to, do that again, anytime. Like I said, we've been doing it now for 10 years. I understand the pain sometimes of podcasting. I understand the determination that you've got to have to kind of keep your head down and keep working at it. So anytime I can help fellow podcasters, always look to do that. But I appreciate you having me on. Thank you for, kind of allowing me to tell my story. But yeah, look forward to hopefully working with y'all in the future.
Well, there you have it, guys. We've been talking to the one and only, the host, Clint Daly of the sports show Daly Dose Sports Podcast. You've been watching Sweep Unplugged. Y'all stay tuned, because we got way more interviews coming soon. Exclusive interviews with Rudy and the crew. Let's go.